So being being a family man to me has everything to do with just providing and making sure that my wife, my kids, even though my wife and I do a lot of this together, have everything they need, and then hopefully most of the things that they want. My role, I'm kind of Mr. Mom because my wife and I have kind of swapped the normal roles. She's more the breadwinner. My wife Tammy makes more money than I do, and I've always kind of been the soccer dad. I've been the sports dad. I've been the homework dad, and we've kind of we never really discussed our specific roles. It was kind of what we fell into, but we've been married for over 20 years, so I guess that helps. But yeah, I would say my role is Mr. Mom in a sense. So the most fulfilling moment as a father or a husband, well, one probably was the day I got married to my wife. Was very nervous, probably more nervous than I'd ever probably admit. Tammy knows I was pretty nervous.
Yeah.
It's a big commitment. It's life changing, and it's at that point in time in our lives we were very young, and a lot of those marriages, well, they don't always make it. So I do feel extremely fortunate to be able to start, my young adult life off with a woman like Tammy, and we made it work. Again, been married for over 20 years. So becoming a family man, being, when I married my wife, she had two young boys. So immediately I was a father at 23. Was not something that I think any 23-year-old is prepared for or knows how to do. But from that moment, you go from being single, hanging out with your friends, and the next thing you know, you have a family to take care of and be there for. My family has become everything to me. It is my only priority. Now, of course, I like my own little toys and like to do some things for myself, but I would like to think that most of what I do, how hard I work or wherever I work, is again to make sure that my wife, my kids definitely have what they need, and then again, hopefully have most of the things they want, and there's nothing that comes before that. So a typical day regarding all the different family responsibilities, work, just a normal life, in one word is chaos. It's just pure chaos. There's always something that needs to be done, whether it's something around the house, whether it's going to work, whether it's taking, a kid to sports or helping one with homework or making sure they don't sleep till 2 in the afternoon. And then of course you gotta remember with a family, you throw in pets, 4 dogs and a cat in the house. It adds another level to that chaos and making sure that those animals are cared for the right way. And then trying to communicate with everybody, even though, as a family we have a little text chat, which I hate texting to begin with, so I'm not very good at being on that as I should be. But at the end of the day, when everyone is safe and happy and secure, kind of mission accomplished, and everything subsides, and I get to spend a little bit of time in my favorite place on the couch and relax a little bit. So finding time, between work and other obligations to connect meaningfully with pretty much everybody in the family can be very challenging, can be very difficult. just as a little example, I took my son Cage today with me to Walmart, and I made him get a haircut. Just spending that time with him in the car, asking him how he's doing, asking him what he's been doing on his summer vacation, especially because the last 3 days I was at work. Hopefully means as much to him as it does to me. I'm a talker. I don't mind asking simple or difficult questions. Whenever I come home from work, I go and try to make sure I knock on most of the kids' doors and let them know that I'm here and say hi and ask them if they're doing okay. And I feel like it can be the simplest gestures that can matter the most. Values very similar to the values that I gained through my parents and through being a Marine. Good work ethic, do the job, don't complain about it, do it to the best of your ability. It doesn't matter what it is, just do it. It can be writing code to mopping a floor. It doesn't matter. Do it the best that you can do it, and be proud of what you've done. Integrity, like do the right thing. Doesn't matter who's around. It doesn't matter that maybe doing the wrong thing is easier, because that's usually how it works. But do the right thing. Be a good human being. Where I see this family in 5 to 10 years, and that's a hard thing to think about, because especially the kids are all kind of different ages and at different points in their lives. In 5 years, my youngest will be graduating from high school. Where would I like to, for his point in his life, I hope he has a scholarship to a college somewhere for some sport that he's playing. He's playing 3 right now, so hopefully one of them will get him a scholarship somewhere. Jenna and Connor, the older ones, I'm hoping that they will, in 5 to 10 years, have a good career, something that is providing for them, supporting them, that where they feel fulfilled and successful. So the toughest challenge I ever faced in regards to trying to keep his family together, 2013, 14, 15 time frame. Not to get into too many specifics, this family went through a really rough time. My wife's oldest son, let's just say, received some medical diagnosis, made some poor decisions, did some things that are regrettable. And through that, my wife and I had to really come to terms with quite a few different things. And in a sense, between the 3 older children, the family did kind of get ripped apart. And we had to find a way to move on and a way to rebuild. And there was a couple times where I didn't think it was gonna last, that it was gonna work. And that's dealing with emotions, that's dealing with different lenses, people looking through a different lens and having a different opinion. I think that's when I really started to understand and learn how to be accepting and understand that it's not so much controlling your feelings, it's just not letting those feelings control our actions. And I hope I never face anything like that again. And I think I have learned a great deal from that experience, and we'll hopefully be able to build on that continuously. And but yes, I would say that time frame in our marriage, that time frame in this family's existence, so to speak, was definitely the toughest. Um, but it speaks to the resiliency of Tammy and my marriage. It speaks to the resiliency of our children, and we made it through, and I think we're only stronger because of it. So managing stress or confrontation or any kind of disagreement, with anybody that you love, with anybody that you're close to, and that means the world to you, is very delicate. You have to be accepting of what other people think, what they value, and you have to find a way to do it calmly, which is very difficult when emotions get involved. I like to think that I have a pretty decent way with words, and I also have a pretty decent way with understanding, well, not understanding, but again, accepting where someone's coming from, and knowing without a doubt that we don't have to agree. We have to make compromises. Whether it's my wife and I, whether it's my kids and I, whether it's all of us together, there's going to be compromises that have to be made. My daughter Cadence is 16, but thinks she's 26. There's constantly compromises I have to make with her to allow her to be who she is, to maybe do some things that her age doesn't say she's quite ready for. But by doing that, when she wants to do other things that I definitely know it's not time for, I can fall back on, well, I let you do this. I'm not letting you do this, and we find a common ground, we find a middle ground, and it's much easier to get past that confrontation, that disagreement, to a point where we can both accept where each other's coming from. And again, don't have to agree, but we're able to just move forward from that confrontation without hurt feelings, and know that, especially from my vantage point, that I'm only trying to do what I think is the absolute right thing and best thing for them at that time. I mean, I think we all make sacrifices, but it's never been something that was hard because of the reason. Like you might think, okay, being a drill instructor was a sacrifice because that was horrible at times. And everything I wanted to do in the Marine Corps, to get promoted, to get pay raises, to keep my career going, it wasn't just for me, but it was a better way for me to provide, again, the needs and the wants. But I never looked at it as a sacrifice because it had a really good purpose behind it. It wasn't a difficult decision because of the reason. Going back to work at Morgan County, I don't look at it as a sacrifice. Like, yeah, sure, I'd rather be able to sit home and relax and be retired all day. But right now isn't the time for that. Right now, we need to continue to financially be stable, and the only way to do that is by working again. I know I am working. It doesn't bother me to do that because the needs and the wants. So I don't look at it from a standpoint of it being a sacrifice that is hard. All sacrifices are hard. It's a sacrifice that's needed. obstacles. The biggest one is money, or the lack thereof. Money and time. Because money doesn't grow on trees. I don't have a money printer in the house. And the older you get, the faster time moves. And it's aggravating. It's horrible. You can't stop it. You can't stop time. You can't just create money out of thin air. And to make money, you have to spend time. You have to spend time away from your family. And when you leaving the Marine Corps, retiring from the Marine Corps, there's a lot of stuff that was provided for us as a family that isn't provided now. And those things cost more money. Sometimes just spending time at the dinner table together isn't enough time. Sometimes you need to go and do things as a family. Well, that costs money. So, and again, you have to take time away from each other to be at a job, to be at work, to create the financial stability needed to do those things. And with the way that don't know a whole lot about the economy, but I know that things cost more now, obviously, than they used to. I don't necessarily think that the pay that individuals received is caught up to that per se, and it makes things more difficult. So yeah, time and money would be the biggest external factors that I have no real control over, that make it difficult to be the dad that goes to every practice, to be the dad that goes to every game, to always be able to be there to take someone to work, or always be able to be there to make dinner. If I had all the money in the world, if I had all the time in the world, none of those things would be an issue. So yeah, time and money. Advice to another, we can just say advice to another man that is trying to be part of a family, be part of a family. Don't look at it in terms of being the patriarch. Don't look at it in terms of being the one who runs things. Don't even look at it in terms of being the one who's solely responsible. I think a lot of guys tend to have this misconception like they've got to be in charge, that they are ultimately responsible. And a marriage it's a team effort. And those compromises aren't always going to be 50-50. You're not always going to understand. I believe my wife, Tammy, bless her heart, love her to death, does some things that I do not understand. But I don't have to. I just have to accept her completely and wholly for who she is, and then support that. And do the small things. Don't be lazy. If your wife asks you to do something, do it. And then try to make it so she doesn't have to ask you again. If you tell your kids you're going to do something, if you tell your kids you're going to be part of their lives in a specific way, follow through, and then set the example. If you tell your kids they need to work harder, or they need to do something differently, it cannot be a do as I say, not as I do. Especially when they're young, because they're going to learn so much more from you than you know. They're always watching, they're always observing. And I wish I would have known that better when I was 23, 24, 25, and was, raising or helping raise a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And I didn't know that. I didn't understand that then.